We're excited today because we have Mr. Saurel Quettan, who is going to lead our next discussion. He's near and dear to my heart. I can remember as a young man, he was pouring into me intellectually, ethically, morally, and so to see him here today is a dream come true. So thank you so much for joining us today.
This is Mr. Samuel Busseret, who's working hard, the hardest working MC ever. Let's give him a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. You're here for a very important conversation. This conversation on the National Congress and constitutional reform in Haiti has the potential of clearing the space for we, the Haitian people, to begin to see the day where we do stop complaining, we do stop blaming, we do stop pointing the fingers, whether at us or at others. And it has the possibility for you, those of you who are sitting here today. I'd love to see a show of hands. If you were born and raised in Haiti, please raise your hand. And if you are of Haitian descent and you were born outside of Haiti, please raise your hand. And if you're not from Haiti, please raise your hand. So whether you are born in Haiti, naturalized as a Haitian, or friend of Haiti, this conversation is for you. It's the opportunity for you to consider something that maybe in a very long time we haven't considered. And that is the opportunity to empower something that the Haitian government is trying to do. That is the National Congress and constitutional reform. Imagine a world where we're not sidestepping or going around the government through private institutions or non-governmental organizations, but we are looking for opportunities to empower, bolster, encourage, hold accountable people who are trying to do good, and hold them accountable and point to it and hold them accountable when they're not doing something that's working. And also find ways, as I'm going to invite you and the panelists will invite you later on, to find a way to contribute to that which will create a sustainable, democratic, new Haiti. This conversation for the National Congress and constitutional reform is just that conversation. My name is Saurel Quettan. I'm your servant during this panel discussion. And joining you and me are two of our illustrious panelists. I want to introduce Madame Chantal Auguste. Chantal is the founder of the Movement of Love for Haiti. With over 30 years in healthcare, she has tirelessly advocated for positive transformation in Haiti. Her commitment extends beyond healthcare, encompassing educational initiatives and community activism aimed at empowering youth and immigrants. You'll hear a lot more about her experience in Haiti, and as it relates to this subject, please help me welcome Madame Chantal Auguste. Also joining this panel is the almost newly minted Dr. Kim Allonce. Kim Allonce, Ph.D., is a very dear friend. He is a community-engaged researcher with a focus on public deliberation and social capital. His groundbreaking work on inclusive dialogue frameworks, combined with experience in economic development and public administration, makes him a powerful voice for shaping the national dialogue. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Dr. Kim Allonce. Before I dive into the conversation with them with questions, Samuel did mention to you that as the conversation is going, I'd love for you to put your thinking cap on and start asking yourselves the question, how can I contribute to this effort? And you'll also hear things that either baffle you, confuse you, make you angry, make you frustrated, or even sad. When you have a question, write it on a piece of paper, and when the time comes for you to engage with the panelists, I'll ask for you to raise your written questions, and Samuel will pick them up, and I'll take them in the order I receive them. We intend for this to be the kind of conversation where it's not so much what they say or what I say, but it will be what you ask and how they respond to what you ask and how that interaction creates in our minds a new pathway for Haiti and for our contribution to it. So before we dive into it, I'd love to set the stage by giving you the opportunity to begin to consider what is the National Congress and what is its purpose. I'm going to read from an excerpt from an article published by Haiti Libre. The July 17, 2024 decree published by Haiti's Presidential Transitional Council establishes an exceptional, time-bound national conference as a participatory mechanism. This process aims to involve all societal sectors in developing a well-adapted and accepted solutions to long-standing national challenges. There are three core objectives to this initiative, and they are constitutional revision. Many of you probably know, some of you may have suffered from what doesn't work about the Constitution of Haiti. This effort is aimed at not reforming, but it says revising, updating the current Constitution. So you may have some questions about that. New societal projects is the second core objective, outlining a unified vision for Haiti. The third is reforming state and society relations, enhancing collaborations between the state, civil society, and political parties, and implementing legal political reforms. And just a few highlights. There are many articles, but Article 1 in the decree defines the conference as inclusive and time-limited. Articles 2 through 5 outlines the primary projects and emphasize the creation of a new constitution as essential. Articles 7 through 11 detailed the roles of the Secretariat in managing and facilitating the dialogue process. So that's the context for the conversation. So as you listen, be listening from the perspective of your own contribution, your own curiosity, and let's engage. And as we engage, I'm asking first Madame Chantal Auguste to introduce herself in this way. Your expertise, your experience, what draws you specifically to this conversation, and what you hope to contribute during this conversation. Chantal, s'il vous plaît.
Thank you, and thank you for the introduction. Thank you for you being here to be part of this the one who made the event possible. Haiti is in crisis, and a lot of us here, we know all that is going on in Haiti. My purpose here is to share with you my experience in the National Congress, Wanamet, for the New Haiti. I am very committed, a Haitian American committed in this community. And the problem of Haiti concerns me and you for being here. I'm glad to share this panel with Kim Allonce, which is not the first time we met. We met in Canada in a convention with several ateliers where we are talking about insecurity, how can we do better. So many people are concerned. And if you had said that I will be here 4 years ago, my family would not believe it. I was only church, not much TV, but after the earthquake in the South in 2021, where my family is calling and said that they're living worse than animals, where everything is gone. Living here in a nice home in Georgia, I'm asking, what can I do to help? And finding out what the problem, finding help, contacting people where I've never been in politics or finding out what's going on. So I had to get engaged and find out organization, because I told them alone, I cannot help rebuild. Our little family cannot help rebuild the homes. And this is how I get to meet wonderful people, organization that was going to the same thing. They've been organization for 12 years, or their families trying to find out how they can help. And we gather, we talk, and find out what do Haiti need the most in order to help with the situation. Going to Haiti was impossible to do humanitarian work. And Haiti is saying, the people in Haiti is saying, in the diaspora, we need to be better organized. So we sat and put together the movement of love. It was the movement of liberation, but everybody thought we were going to do a revolution. So it's been switched to the movement of love, MLA, M-L-H-A. Love, because we do need love in order to be able to love each other and help each other and realize things together. So what was the movement of love for Haiti for? To put all organizations that are working to know each other, to let us know how we can do things together, and to do marches in order to be awareness of the situation. Because I worked 30 years in hospital, and most people that you encounter or anywhere don't even know. Your neighbors don't know what's going on to Haiti. And my children will be funny to see me with a post and going in the Atlanta and anywhere, traveling to mobilize and talk about the situation of Haiti. The movement of love for Haiti had a show. We come up with a show to invite people that are knowledgeable about the situation of Haiti and tell us how we can come up with something to get out of the situation. With all the meetings going on, it's to mobilize more, do things together. And there's a gentleman who's been coming in the show in many times. His name is Dr. Fritz Bissret. And he mentioned to us to put in action what we are doing, all the meetings, all the organizations that have been coming to the show to tell us what they are doing, how they are doing their work, whether they are from humanitarian, whether they are in politics, whatever they are doing in Haiti, how we can do it together and do it better. And this is how we could structure ourselves. So we had topics like Haiti in a coma. How can we find a solution? how not to accept the unacceptable in Haiti. And what we found that is the solution, the worst thing, is to have a good government in Haiti. Not only a good government that is with people that have integrity, that love the country, but are capable to make Haiti a wonderful country that see the interests of the people. So we did much together with other organizations. One of the big march was the march in front of Washington, D.C., the Haitian Solidarity Day for Change. And through this, we stand up and said, we Haitian, we must be at the table, and we're going to do all it takes from now on to do all it takes to get Haiti and help get Haiti out of where it's at. So the follow-up of this march brought us to what probably some of you never heard of it, the National Congress for Wanamet, for the new Haiti. Wanamet because it was not done in Wanamet, because of the canal that you might have heard, the Wanamet Canal, the solidarity, the strength, the resilience, the peace that since the archive, since what happened, the revolution of November 18, we haven't seen happening. Togetherness, that things must change when they realize that one canal, they have to do it. And we call it Wanamet for this reason. And Dr. Bisret's idea for Movement of Love for Haiti to be the initiator of this Congress is to have all the people that have further route, a way of getting, they have their proposition for Haiti. Wherever, even if you are independent, a party politic, or you are an organization, or you have already presented, to come at a table together and discuss a national solution to get out of the mess that we are. So it was commission and under commission of finance, of secretariat to work and send letters to everyone, whether you in the government, the actual government in Haiti, or you are in a political party, or you are just an organization. You were all invited to sit and come. In Haiti, we are in the diaspora, but that was a meeting of the diaspora who cares and the one in our brothers and sisters in Haiti to sit, because solution was not possible. We were under a void of democracy. There was not a void of presidential, because we come to February where there was nothing happening. So in January of 2021, we spent 10 days of present, 3 days present in Haiti, in all the departments. And that was organization that brought their delegates. We had 200 delegates and 50 delegates in the United States from different Africa, Argentina, people that represent Haiti, and to talk about how we can together find one solution to get Haiti out of insecurity problem, government problem, because we have identified these were the problem, to come with a resolution. And those delegates from several departments of Haiti, they come and whether they were from the youth, whether from women, from the Vaudouism, from the Protestant, they were there and were expressing themselves on how it was not an easy way, because our differences make it difficult to do things. But we realized that Haiti was in a corner where we must make a difference. There was other organization that was doing sommet, and others were doing a congress as well. When we talked to them about the National Wanamet Congress, it was a great thing that we could have come all together in one room, whether you were in the Cap Haitian, whether you were in the Department of West, whether we were in the Department of South, the Grand South, we were speaking one word, that Haiti's constitution, we must come as a president. That's what was asked to the Supreme Court, to have a president and for a consensual prime minister. And this was what the resolution, everyone that was sitting together, they had found out that was the way, the constitutional way to go by and get Haiti out of the problem it was in. It was a great experience for me living and never been to Haiti for a long time, to be in Cape Haitian with the people, the delegates that have worked with different groups in the countryside, to talk to those people and find out how they could meet their needs. And unfortunately, many people from the 10 days of talk, virtual and presential, of different subjects discussing, we have some people, when they find out that going to a president and a prime minister, a consensual for prime minister, it was not their decision. And we have some people that have really stepped back, but we can see right now what the situation that is in Haiti. So we will go to further, but the experience of going to Cape Haitian, myself, and talk and see that it is possible with people with different idea, but coming as one for one solution. It's our constitution. We must, when there's a void of presidential, and the way to go with, it's taking the spirit of the Constitution. And thank you very much for listening, and I'll be waiting for your question after.
Thank you, Chantal. Kim, go ahead and use that one. So,
Sure.
We'd love to hear from your experience, just to set the stage. Don't give it all to them right now.
Probably not. Good evening, everyone. Very excited to be here. My name is Kim Allonce, and I'm gonna go ahead and do this because I wear so many hats, and I wouldn't be a good economic development director if I didn't take the time to welcome you to the Atlanta region. I do not work for the city of Atlanta, but I work for the best suburb to live in the US. So if Atlanta is home to you, I'm pretty sure you've taken some time and you've ventured and looked at the city of Johns Creek. But if you are not from Atlanta, I want to welcome you to Atlanta. And if you have some time, please Google Johns Creek. We are the best suburb to live in the US. So now that's over with, let me go back and now put my other hat on to talk about my expertise. My expertise really comes from my lived experience and not so much from my educational background, and I'm gonna say why. I was born and raised in Haiti. I was born and raised in the outskirts of downtown Port-au-Prince. So very familiar with Port-au-Prince. I remember I went to Saint Martial, which was in downtown Port-au-Prince, that they had to move recently because of the current violence issue. And I used to just walk from school to my house, and it was a pleasant walk. And I lived in a neighborhood where a lot of my fellow Haitians didn't really have an opportunity to go to the same school because it was a private school and a lot of people didn't have the means to afford it. So I was very privileged in that way, and I recognize that privilege. In 2004, with everything that was going on, my parents decided that we needed to relocate because of the situation. So we went to the suburbs, and I had to change school. So I went to another school, Saint Louis Gonzague, which again is a great school, and I was again privileged. Thinking about the issues that we face in Haiti and thinking about my lived experience, my first real encounter with the word social inequality, which is probably the central tenet or the number one issue that I think we face as a country. My first encounter with that was when I was growing up. I remember coming home. I was pretty independent when it came to doing my homework. And I came home and I was dealing with something that I didn't really understand. And I went to my grandmother and said, "Hey, can you help me with this?" To my surprise, my grandmother told me she could not, because when she was growing up, at the age of 12, her mother took her out of school so she could help her sell her products. So coming from Kenskoff to Port-au-Prince to sell products. Here I was thinking about and struggling with the fact that probably the most wonderful women and the figure that I admired so much didn't really know how to help me. And then I started thinking about social inequality and the haves and the have-nots. As I was growing up, I kept these things in mind. My second experience that would really guide who I am and who I have become was the earthquake. And I know the earthquake has changed so many things for so many people. But for me, it meant walking from my school, the law school in downtown Port-au-Prince, to my house in the suburbs in La Plaine for about 5 hours. Throughout my journey, I saw a lot: collapsed buildings, schools, churches. I even lost my own uncle. He was teaching at a university. We never recovered his body. And I started asking questions about who is responsible, because the earthquake itself didn't really kill a lot of people if you think about it. The buildings and the lack of proper guidelines, principles on how to do things, those things were responsible. Unfortunately, the voiceless and those people who do not have an opportunity to have a seat at the table are usually the most vulnerable. They are usually the ones that have to pay for decisions that other people make for them. So that day I reflected and I said, you know what? I don't want to be a lawyer anymore. I think I really want to focus on the public interest, mostly at the local level. Fast forward, suffered from PTSD and had an opportunity to come here to the US. I've always been in Atlanta, so went to school here. Decided to study political science because I wanted to understand power. What is power and how to get it and how to keep it? Because it was always about power in Haiti. And as I was going through my studies, I realized that power is great, but once you have it, what do you do with it? So what is government and what does it do? Then I decided to get a master's in public administration. And as I was learning about what government does and how it does it, and I have experience working in local government, I've spent some time in Central Florida, South Florida, I came back to Atlanta. Then I started asking other questions. I'm like, yes, it's great, but what about those places that have embraced democracy, but democracy hasn't worked for them? Is democracy the best that we can do? Is democracy the best that we have? And I decided to further my studies to understand what democracy is. A few years later, I came across a few concepts. So my goal today is not to change minds and hearts. It is merely to invite you all to think about some of the things that we will discuss. I invite you to keep an open mind. I invite you to reflect and ask questions. Because when it comes to the National Conference and Constitutional Reform, for me, there are two questions that we must think about. The first one is democracy. When we think about the word democracy and when we say big D democracy, we usually refer to our ability to elect people to represent us. We hope that when we elect them, they make decisions on our behalf. When we talk about democracy, what we really mean when we think about it this way is what we call representative democracy, which is what I just explained. How does that work in Haiti where people don't have elected officials? What do we do when representative democracy fails us? And my idea or my invitation to you all is to think about how can democracy be people powered, because democracy has always been about people participating. It goes beyond elections. It goes beyond electing people to represent us. And when the people that we elect to represent us are not really representing us, how do we as a people take care of our affairs? So that's one. Two, national dialogues are processes that countries use when they're going through a rough time or a tough time to bring people together and talk about, hey, how do we solve the issue? How do we get out of it? Whether it is political, social, whether it's about war, other conflicts. Sometimes they succeed, sometimes they fail. And they fail for a lot of reasons, a lot of factors. But in the case of Haiti, as Saurel mentioned, we know that the national conference is going to happen, at least based on what is said. There's consensus on the need for us to come together as a people to talk about the issues that we value most and how do we move forward. However, what is not clear to us is how do we create space for ordinary people like you and myself to have a seat at the table? Not just to meet certain quotas, but to really have a meaningful engagement. And that is what we're going to explore today, and I hope that you'll take some time and answer the two questions that I have in the WUVA app. I asked two questions, and I would love to engage with you all, and I'll talk about those in a few. Thank you.
Okay, Kim and Chantal, thank you. Now it's almost your turn. I'm going to ask the panelists a few questions just to stir the pot. And I will ask you to take just a couple of minutes to answer the questions so we can get to audience questions. All right? And Mr. Timer, could you give us a 15-minute timer, because we'll end the segment of these questions in 15 minutes. Okay? Just give me a sign, and I'll know, and we'll switch to audience questions. So the first question goes like this, and I'd love to hear from both of you. How can the National Congress and constitutional reform serve as a foundation for strengthening democratic structures in Haiti? I mean, on the surface, it sounds obvious, right? But what are your thoughts? Chantal, you go first.
They need to first continue to unite it. What they should learn is to continue to unite it, the Haitian people, to be part of the solution. This is a very important. We all are concerned, and continue to strengthen, continue to gather and be part of this solution. The second thing is the international community is part of the humanitarian crisis. It's to be aware of that. It's part of the political crisis. And since 1990, the UN is in Haiti. And as we have result, this is who's making decision for us, not us. And this is why a national society to make decision for Haiti is very important, and knowing what's work. We learn that if you don't know your past, you are up to failure. You need to learn from the past. And the past shows us since, I will say, 1946 to 1998, there have been about 10 presidential consul, and they are all failed and come to the Supreme Court to decide. A Haiti sovereign, a Haiti that Haitian take decision must go to that route.
Thank you. Thank you. So it makes sense to go that route so that Haiti, in your opinion, can reclaim its sovereignty. I got that. Same question, Kim. How can the National Congress and constitutional reform serve as a foundation for real democracy in Haiti?
Sure. I started talking about democracy earlier, and I could read the room, and people were looking at me. Huh? That's exactly what my goal is again to invite you all to reflect on some of the things that I'm saying. Now, when it comes to the national conference, I think the opportunity for democracy, as I've stated before, we need to ask questions about the form of democracy that we subscribe to. Is it the best? And from there, we need to talk about the institutions that we need to create and how we engage with those institutions. To go back to the process itself and the goal of the national conference, you mentioned one is constitutional reform, second is a new social contract. And for me, the new social contract is key. If we really want to form a new social contract, which means that we really need to come with a different nation. We need to chart a new path for our nation, and we cannot do that by simply convening a few stakeholders and talk about it. Here's what I mean by that. In other places where a new social contract was the goal, the number of people who participated in the national conference was important. If we are going to engage and truly engage people, we must focus on representation. And what does that mean when I say representation? It means who gets to participate? How do we select people? Where do we go to find them? And when we do convene them, how do we talk? What do we talk about? And for a process to lead to a new social contract and a new democratic order, it cannot be something that we do just for the sake of doing it. It requires time, it requires intentionality, it requires skilled facilitators. If success is what we're after, if a new social contract is what we're after, it needs to be intentional. I'm gonna make that tangible for you. When we talk about ordinary people and the government, there is a lack of trust. The lack of trust is not so much that we as a people, we don't trust the government, but the government has never trusted us. When you think about how they engage the ordinary people in the country, there's never room for empowerment, where decisions are made by those who are the most impacted by those decisions. So for me, representation and diversity and intentionality, they mean that we're not convening experts just because they have degrees, just because they are experts. The real experts are those who are living the same conditions that we are trying to change. And if we cannot give them a room to talk about those issues, then what is going to happen is that we're going to convene them with our hidden agenda, and we are going to make them go through a process, and people outside of the process will look at it and will say, hey, they don't look like me, they don't represent me, they don't talk for me, or I cannot agree with what they're saying. And then what's going to happen is that we're going to get into a situation where people are not buying into what is decided. So as much as I'm excited about the national conference as someone who spends time and studies those processes, but I know that in other places, they have been used to manipulate people. So if the process is not done right, we can end up with a crisis that we do not want. As much as I am excited, I am saying that it should be done with intentionality.
Thank you, Kim. A follow-on question to that. You're pointing to doing it right. And I know, given your experience and what your specialty is, that you're steeped in what is called inclusive dialogue and deliberative democracy. Can you create for the audience the difference between what you know the essence of the national conference is and inclusive dialogue as what you may be recommending as a way, a path forward to actually make the national conference successful?
Sure. So I talked earlier about national conferences as time-bound, and they're more likely one-time events, whether it is done over 6 months, 9 months, but they typically are one-time events, and they have a specific mandate. In our case, the mandate is we need to change the Constitution, or we need to reform the Constitution, we need to come up with a new social contract, and we need to create a different relationship between the government and the people. That's one time. On the other end, the inclusive dialogue process is more sustained. It is ongoing. It is a process whereby the intent is to engage people and build what I mentioned earlier, which is trust. And through the work that I did for my dissertation, where I engaged a number of organizations and folks in the diaspora here, I went to New York, where we started talking about and envision what could a national conference or national dialogue look like. And at that point, representation was decided as being the number one or the most important factor. Again, going back to who gets to participate, who gets to be in the room, that is really important. Then we started asking, what does representation look like? How do we select people? For inclusive dialogue to happen, we need three things. One is diversity of perspectives, diversity of lived experiences. That means that we need to be talking to the local farmers. We need to create space for those people who we think don't have expertise because they don't have fancy degrees. Secondly, we need to be intentional. We have a society that we've created where a number of people are marginalized, so we need to be intentional about how we invite them, how we eliminate barriers to promote the inclusive dialogue. And finally, it is about creating a space where we acknowledge the fact that we are different and that we don't have to agree on everything, and that is a good thing. What we need to do is really to understand each other and understand what is going on and how we can move forward. So the inclusive dialogue framework that we put forward has 4 different elements. The first one is what we call the first inclusive dialogue, which is really a conversation and a reflection between you and you. And the question that we invite you to ask is, how can I, as a person, change the way that I think, the way that I act, and the way that I feel about my country before I engage other people and start talking about it? The second, and that's where the sovereignty comes. You have to declare yourselves sovereign first. Second of all, it is what we call LACO conversations. So LACO conversations are really local conversations about what people care and what they share in common. And we want to create a space where they discuss those things. And I'm happy to say that as part of our efforts with the Coalition for Inclusive Dialogue, we are training 15 university students in Haiti at the moment to be inclusive dialogue facilitators. Because as much as a one-time event is important, inclusive dialogue needs to be sustained. So, and I'm glad to also say that in the month of November, the students are hosting 3 community conversations in Haiti, one in Delma, one in Saint-Marc, and the other one will be virtual. And finally, I have 2 more left. Intergroup dialogues. Intergroup dialogues, if you want to think about it this way, would be dialogues with people that have stark differences. Think about it this way. How do I talk to a gang member, for example? What does it take to talk to a gang member? Now, I know people have different feelings about that, and I will acknowledge it. I saw it through my research that people have differences about that. But if we must talk to people with whom we have stark differences and we do not value the same thing, we have differences of opinion on whether it's political or it's social, how do we engage with them? And then finally, the process that I think offers the most optimism and hope about the national conference is what I call citizen assemblies. Citizen assemblies are really a gathering of randomly selected people, ordinary people, and they gather to talk about a difficult issue. They have been prominent lately, and they've been organized in various places. The latest example that I can think of right now is the one that was done in Paris to talk about the climate issue that they're facing. The first one, and probably the most notable one, is the one done in Ireland to change their constitution. So they help us solve a number of issues. One is legitimacy. The other one is trust. And finally is, how do we ensure that what is decided people want to implement? And I think that if we take a number of people that is a microcosm of our country and our diaspora, and we put them in a room, we give them balanced information, we give them an opportunity to really talk to each other in a way that they've never done so before, I think you'll be amazed to see what comes out. Because for me, ordinary people are capable of the most extraordinary things in the most unordinary places. And I think expertise is not titles. Expertise is not knowledge that we equate to educational attainment. Expertise is how I am living, what I am living, and how I can contribute to a solution for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I have a rather exciting question for both of you. You speak about inclusion, and I'm wondering if in the minds of some of you in the audience, there isn't this thing that's speaking to you that says, well, gosh, you know, there's this obvious group of people that should be excluded. Just to both of you. In this process of inclusive dialogue or national conference, whether it's to reform the Constitution or create a foundation for democracy, do you envision any groups of people that might be automatically excluded? Chantal, you go first.
We have our young people that are dying to help and don't know how to. And I believe how to communicate is very hard, but we need as many, they are the future of our country, and the diaspora is it's an important part. Knowing what we do here in Haiti, we are part of, and I think sometimes we are excluded. We're just sending money, and the exclusion is there, but our young people in Haiti want to be included in this conversation for the new Haiti, and I think that's a very important.
So you're saying that the diaspora wants to be included and should. Mm-hmm. Young people want to be included and should.
Yes.
And the question was, do you think there's any group that should be automatically excluded?
No group. Everybody should be part of this work.
Okay.
To change things around.
What about you, Kim?
We cannot talk about inclusion and start with exclusion. So I think that there must be an opportunity for everyone to be included, and by everyone, we also have to be careful. Let's just take one example. I mentioned the gang violence issue earlier, and while I was doing my research, the question was, should gang members be included in the national conference or the inclusive dialogue? And we had divergent viewpoints because certain people felt like, no, they shouldn't be included because by doing what they're doing, they automatically give up their political and social rights. And then there was another group of people that said, hey, they should be included because they are victims of the situation itself. So it depends on the lens with which you look at it. What I'll say though is that when I look at other processes that were done elsewhere, inclusive dialogue and national conference cannot really take place in the context of violence, because I wouldn't necessarily want to be sitting across the table with someone that has, let's say a big rifle. And to me, if certain groups of people want to be included and they want to be part of the conversation, they have to be willing to take the first step. And in the example of gang members, I think it means giving up what need to be given up before they enter the conversation. And another group of people that people were or had different or divergent opinion or viewpoints about was those politicians who've been sanctioned or those that we consider as being corrupted. A lot of people felt like they shouldn't be involved in the conversation. And to that, again, we need to ask ourselves, what is the intent for us to involve or include certain groups of people? And I think when it comes to the consensus or the common ground, if they enter the conversation, they have to be willing to accept what is said and what is decided. One example could be, hey, if gang members be part of the conversation, they have to be willing to face the consequences should the group or should the people decide that they need to face the consequences. Same for the politicians. So I know it's a very nuanced answer, but that's how I feel about it.
I appreciate both of your answers, and I'm sure the audience does as well. One last question for you, Chantal, and as Chantal is answering her question, be prepared with your questions, raise them high, Samuel will pick them up, and I'll take as many as I can until you tell me to stop. Works? All right. So Chantal, given your vast experience and the tremendous work you've done with the Wanamec Congress, as Haiti looks to create a national conference and reform or revise the Constitution, what can you offer as lessons learned and pitfalls to avoid in this process? What do you want to say?
Lesson learned, the Constitution have never been applied by our government. Reforming is important, but with whom? The same people are going to implement the same kind of constitution changes, and you're going to have a new president that might want, why not wait for the elections, going with the Constitution. We do have the return of the Constitution that we have, because our problem is just government is not applying the Constitution. We have a beautiful Constitution, and it haven't been applied. And there's another version on, can you repeat again? I think there's something else that you asked. No.
Lessons learned and pitfalls to avoid.
Avoid, it's as we talk here, as we finished all this, is to see how we can put in action. We have spending the time to do things together, and is to put in action the things that we have learned, because Haiti needs all of us, and what should not happen is for us to just go home and let's continue the work, let's continue to get involved, let's continue to find the truth and the understanding what's going on, so we do not repeat the same consequences of what happened in the past.
Thank you. Samuel, you have questions from the audience?
Yes, we do.
All right, as we wait on Samuel to come up, I want to ask you one last question. How can the diaspora's voice be best included and amplified in the national conference and constitutional reform? You've heard the other panelists and you've heard everyone. The diaspora wants to be included. How can they be included in the process? Kim, you go first.
Sure. It's an interesting question, and one that may get me into trouble. The reason why I say that is because the train has departed. However, it's not too late. When I say the train has departed, the process has started. the process for the national conference has started. Now, if we as a diaspora want to really engage and have our voices heard, we need to do what I call coalition building. By coalition building, I mean not having different groups of people trying to take a bite at the apple, but to really organize and ask ourselves, what is a true representation of the Asian diaspora? What does that look like? And when I say it will get me into trouble is because we are gathered here and we are all part of the diaspora. But are we really the true representation of the diaspora? Who is not here that should be here? Who are we missing? So I think when I talk about coalition building, it requires that we have true representation and that we speak one language, and with that, we can engage our actors, because the steering committee, if you look at its composition, does not have someone to represent us. Is it too late to coalesce and demand that we are represented? I don't think so, but things are moving fast. The train has departed, so the time for us to coalesce, I think, is now.
All right, we have questions from the audience. Now, whoever raises their hand first goes for it, right? How does Haiti avoid the international communities, especially the core group, to stop seeing Haiti as a political battleground or geopolitical location rather than a place for economic development?
The more that we let decision be made for us, we will not go nowhere. We must continue to talk together. I didn't know Kim before. There's several of you here that are doing wonderful work, and so many. Is to see how we can speak in one, have one, the way we vote. It's organized and structure ourselves. And as the way, why the National Congress Wanamet was done, as what the people from the canal with resilience and strength and solidarity stand up and say they will do the canal, that Wanamet, it's immortal, and we need to learn from it and continue this work in our politics. Haiti needs us, and to speak in one voice, and no one, Haitian is the only people that can that have the interest of Haiti, and to work for good governance, and before I didn't know there was several organizations that doing the same work than the movement of Love for Haiti. Then you find out that there's so many of us, and we gather together and partner and to do wonderful things. Let's continue this work, because I think Dorothy, Joseph had asked, what can we do? As we live here, let's connect more and work for one thing. As we lobbying, and to have one way of talking together. And that was the realization of the Congress that makes so many of us with differences to come in one voice. What we want, it's a sovereign country where everybody have the right, and the Constitution that is what speak for us. We have good governments that have integrity, that are capable, and that love Haiti, that are patriotic, that can put Haiti back to its feet.
Thank you, Chantal. I'm going to throw the next question to you, Kim. Having constitutional reform is one thing. It's a good thing. But when institutionalized corruption takes over, and it takes over the law, how do we solve this problem?
So it's a loaded question, I'll answer it.
That's why I sent it to you.
I'll answer it with two things. The first is what I call provisions for implementation. So in every and any dialogue or national conference process, what is decided has to be implemented. So for something to be successful, there needs to be a commitment from either the convener, and by the convener in our case, I mean the government. There needs to be a commitment to implement what is being decided by the people. If there's no commitment, then we never implement what we decide, and we go back to the same old and same old. But again, the process is important. I keep talking about the process because you want to come out with things that people feel like that represent them. Whatever the decision is, if we decide to change the way we govern ourselves, going from what we currently have and go to a different form of government, go from being a unitary form of government to a federalist form of government, whatever we decide, the people have to feel like those who made the decision, while they were not part of the conversation, represent them. Corruption is a different animal. It is not something that we're going to solve by having a one-time event. And that's where I think inclusive dialogue brings so much value to the conversation. The ongoing conversation of how do we solve the most complex problems that we face, what I call wicked problems. Those problems are very, very difficult to solve. They are, typically people define them in different way, and it feels as if when you touch one side of the problem, there's a different side that comes at you. And for us to solve those problems, we really have to take time to engage in what we call inclusive dialogue, to talk, give people ample time with information and skilled facilitators to be able to implement solutions to solve those problems. So whether it's corruption, whether it's educational reform, whether it's economic development, those things require more than just a one-time national conference.
Thank you, Kim. This one's to both of you. Haiti has a consistency problem between its leaders and the people. How do you feel about longer terms for the leaders, like 10 years? Both of you. President for 10 years.
That is a philosophical argument about term limits. Here's when you say 10 years, are we talking about consecutive years, like of 5 and 5, or are we talking about simply having a president for 10 years? So I've heard conversations about, hey, we have trouble holding elections. We should elect our people for a longer period of time. Democracy is an experiment. If we commit to doing democracy, we have to commit to doing democracy. We cannot be lazy with democracy. I'm going to say it again. We cannot be lazy with democracy. When you have a country where the participatory democracy does not exist, whereby you go and you elect people, they say they represent you, but you never get to talk to them. They never come to you. There's no what we call reddition de compte. They're not accountable to you. I cannot imagine having someone for 10 years. That's a big mandate to give to someone, and I think further engagement is needed. So the concept of 10 years, I don't think will solve our democratic issues. If anything, I would say having consecutive years, 10 years with 5 consecutive years, I think makes sense because you have an opportunity to validate or revoke that mandate, but I don't think longer terms are going to solve our issues. We need to engage in participatory democracy.
I want to agree with my colleague here, but what we need, as you get 5 years, sometime you get someone else that come and take everything that you have started and does not continue it. Haiti needs a change of system completely. A system and more, we're not touching decentralization to get, but having different department with different, but one council that will follow up with each a 5 year, because to see 2054 as a developed country, this is what we have. The National Congress was not just a short-term solution, but a medium to go to election, have the conventional national convention, have election, but also 25 years of overlooking. We were asked to be the facilitator in order to remain with our eyes with 5 governments and make sure what we have put in place as a further route, as a proposition to change the situation, it's not stopped after one government. It's a consecutive of 5 governments to get, because Haiti will be need more than 1 term, 2 terms, but a good 5, which is over 20 years, to get back to his feet. So what maybe President Jovenel was trying to do, or another one, will not stop and not continue. I'm hoping I answered that.
Thank you, you did. So time is bidding us, right? So we'll close with this. I'd love for each of you, rapid fire, 2 recommendations for the Presidential Council and the people implementing the National Conference and constitutional reforms. 2 recommendations, like must have.
It's hard to say, but that's the truth. I don't know, like we said, a presidential council, it's difficult to take it for Haiti in order to go anywhere. For things to work, we will need to return to the Constitution and apply our Constitution. And for us in the diaspora to know what asset we are to Haiti and get involved and speak up, and really for our brothers and sisters in Haiti to value us are not just receiving money, but to know that we part of Haiti and we belong and we want the best for Haiti. We need to be included as well in all and find our place in democracy in Haiti. So it's very hard to say that with what we have here, there will be a change, but it's a hope that this could change. We turn to our Constitution and make Haiti a sovereign country. And core group or any other international will not have our interest, that we take action and make steps for the future of the people of Haiti.
Thank you, Chantal. Kim, you have the final word.
So I started saying that I was really excited about the national conference, and at the same time, I am very concerned and very perplexed. The reason being that my recommendation would be, if we ought to do this, we have to do it right. I don't think there is a real urgency to engage in that process right now. However, if we ought to do it, we have to do it right. By doing it right, I mean, 1, create an open process where people feel like or they perceive it as being fair. Being fair means how you select the people to be a part of it. We are seeing something right now with the Electoral Commission that they're trying to put together where they say, hey, stakeholders, you get to choose your people and send them to us. And we all know how long that is taking and how the stakeholders are not able to really get together and decide who should represent them. To overcome that, my recommendation is create a process that is fair. And I know that at the moment, the idea of random selection or sortition may sound very daunting to a lot of people. But when you think about the origins of democracy, people used to be chosen by lottery to represent others. That process itself is fair in a way that it allows everyone a chance to participate should they choose to do so. It is representative in that you can create a small representative sample of the population, which means that you know by looking at your population, who do you need from a geographical standpoint, from a gender standpoint, from a social occupation standpoint. And then finally, it gives legitimacy to the process. By legitimacy, I mean I don't have to participate. However, if I see that all we're doing is convening the same loudest and the same people that have always been engaged in the process, and we call it an inclusive process, I am going to scream, and more than likely, what is decided, I am not going to find myself in it, because it is not going to be with the expertise, with the perspective of the people who need to actually be in the room. Finally, I'll say this. I asked about 2 days ago in the WUVA app, how might we select delegates to participate in the National Conference and Constitutional Reform process in Haiti? About 12 out of 25 people said we should have an application process whereby people are selected based on interest, expertise, and certain eligibility criteria. To me, that's the in-between from a true process where people are selected by lot, because again, logistically, it might be difficult for us to implement that right now, but I think what you'll have answered with the poll is where we need to be. Create a process where people who are interested and have what I call the lived experience, and we can then select them to participate. Thank you.
Thank you both, and thank you to you, the audience. Thank you for your attention, your participation. It is my hope, and I think your hopes as well, that you left with more questions than answers, and that you also left with a desire for your voice to be heard in any way, shape, or form. If the only thing you do leaving this conversation is to share what you took away with another, that's good. And if you go beyond that, that's great. Our participation matters. I thank you, and I need you to do me a favor right now and acknowledge our panelists. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Chantal.
Fantastic.